we've been asked to fit a VHF bush radio into this truck, so this is going to go into the EN band. We're just having a wee look-see at what we've got here. We've obviously had radios in this truck before in the past. We've got at least 2 connectors here. There's a Pacific connector and some sort of DC supply here, and on the dashboard we've got yet another radio connector and another one here. So in total we've got 4 previously used radio connectors, and what we'll do is we'll climb outside in a minute and have a look at what the aerials are inside this vehicle. Now this vehicle, as the moment I got into it, I felt the damp, and I've just put my hand on the headlining here. All of this is damp, so there's a leak, and it's a sleeper cab. So these things are jolly great tall things, so it wouldn't surprise me if whatever's been put on the roof of this vehicle, perhaps the horns or something like that's been sconned, or maybe even the and I've tracked down a piece of coax going through there. Maybe even the aerial fittings are not adequately done on this vehicle, maybe weren't adequately sealed, or the wrong type of aerials used. But anyway, we'll go outside and have a wee look-see. I'm just trying to make up my mind how to actually deal with this job, because as is typically with a truck like this, you're trying to make the best of probably what's a bad thing anyway. Okay, here's our first aerial. I've got no idea what that is. I've even got no idea why you'd mount an aerial there, because you've got this big sheet of steel right next to the antenna. Let's have a look at the next one. Now you've got, when you do Z mounts like this, you've got to put 4 holes in, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, plus the hole for the coax cable to go through. So you're drilling 5 holes. You have to seal up 5 holes. In my opinion, you're better off to drill 1 hole and seal it properly. Nothing like a good old splurge with sealant to try and seal things up. I don't know what that is, but anyway, moving right along. And here we go, and again with somebody obviously who installs aerials believes in a copious quantity of sealant. And that's metal. Anyway, there's one more aerial to go. Okay, here's the last one. Here's another one of these brackets that are... There's 2 fixing holes at the bottom and 2 fixing holes at the top, plus the hole for the coax, which is going through the middle there somewhere, and you've got to seal all of them up. But an antenna installed like that's terrible, because you've got this adjacent metalwork right along the side of the shaft of the antenna. Terrible. I'm not surprised it leaks actually, but never mind, we'll try and find a suitable aerial installation and seal it up properly. Here's a Pacific antenna base. Oh. Yeah, it's not fastened in properly. Might be the reason for the leak in the roof, but the other reason is we've got a horn there, looks like it's been belted right off. We've got large poultices of sealant all over everything up here, so there's obviously been some attempt to try and solve the problem with the water coming in. There's another hole over there that's had sealant applied to it. So trying to put an aerial on this truck might be trying to select the best of a bad thing. Well, Here we have the Pacific antenna base fitting, held in with 3 rusty screws. The sealant was barely sealing anything, and the base fitting underneath the roof here is going rusty too. Anyway, hopefully we'll be able to make a silk purse out of the Sows Ear. And if we put the antenna up here on the roof, we've got a decent chance it'll work correctly without adjacent metalwork cocking things up. I've tidied up the rust around this hole with a sanding pad and an angle grinder, and we just hit it with a cold galv. Now we'll leave that there for a wee while for it to dry off and harden up. And when we put the antenna base, we'll actually be snotting it up tight with sicca right from the bottom and from above. Righto, here's the finished article, nicely sealed up and hopefully waterproof. Nice ground plane underneath it so I can get away with a quarter wave whip. It should be great. Try and avoid this kind of thing. This is just absolute garbage. And if you're drilling holes in trucks, no matter what sort of bracket or mount you're using, pay particular attention to sealing them up. I'm sure the driver will appreciate it, otherwise he gets a shower every time it rains. And we actually have this radio on Highway 171. That's the Log Safety Transport Council channel for use on the open highway. All New Zealand open highways in actual fact. And we're going to put it into here. You know, now the Icon radio doesn't come with a DIN bracket, so I'm mounting it into a GME DIN bracket, even though, as you'll be able to see, there's a fair bit of space around it. At least it'll support it inside that DIN hole. Now we're just going to do a quick VSWR test here. That's our reflected power. Let's check our forward power. Should have 25 watts. Yep, 25 watts. The more important reading is reverse power. And we should have very little, just like that. So that's about a watt reverse. Okay, we'll call that an install. And pack up and get out of here. The position of that aerial on the roof with 360 degrees of radiation in every direction should provide them with more than enough coverage, as opposed to the other aerials which were mounted on the side of the cab, that's just bovine excrement, that kind of thing. Because these things rattle loose, I found that if you tighten these as tight as you can, finger tight, give them an extra half a turn with a spanner, and then tape this nut up to stop this from rattling loose, you'll find you'll get more reliable service out of your radio.